Hey guys, it's Simeon. This is Pro Wrestling Unlimited. As we are here on a Monday morning, it's the 27th of January 2020. We got the wrestling wrap up. Got a lot of stuff to talk about pertaining to last night's Royal Rumble. And also, we got a special guest host with us today. It's Kenny from the Kenny for Your Thoughts podcast. Kenny, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Tim? Man, thanks so much for having me, man. I'm honored that out of everybody that messaged you to do this thing with you, you chose me. I feel very special right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, as he's stating, I sent out a tweet saying, who wants to join us on podcast? Who wants to co-host with us, talk wrestling, do this, do that, whatever. And I got a number of people that were interested, but not to be rude or anything. I got a number of people that weren't exactly qualified. And so with the people that were qualified, I reached back out, and Kenny was the first and so far only one to say, hey, yeah, let's do it. And he jumped right on the opportunity.
Yeah, man, and like I think I told you before this, we got on here. I'm always willing to put in the work, so this is an honor, man, to do this with you. I'm excited. I really am.
So give our listeners just a quick little minute or two backstory on you, how you got into doing the podcasting stuff and your podcast, your YouTube and whatnot.
Gotcha. I mean, so at the time I was working a job I didn't like, and to make a long story short, once I left that job, I was like, you know what? I'm turning 30. I'm kind of sick of doing stuff for other people. I kind of want to do my own thing. So I started my own business, a mortgage company, and then I also started a wrestling podcast. And it's been very, very weird. I mean, I have a lot of friends in the wrestling business now. I work for a wrestling company, Knockout Wrestling, here in Florida. I've interviewed some great people. Chris Van Vliet. I'm about to interview Izzy from. You might know her as the Sasha Banks Bailey girl, and some great other people. I mean, it's just it's been an honor, and honestly, it's been so humbling the response we've gotten from our podcast. If you want to check out our podcast, you can. Well, I'm saying our because I have a co-host, Brandon. If you want to check that out, it is youtube.com/a Kenny for your thoughts, or wherever you stream your audio podcast, I should say. Yeah, definitely check us out. We like to have fun. We like to joke around. It's pretty much me. I say it's a wrestling podcast. This is our slogan pretty much, but it's just really me like making fun of Brandon for about half an hour to an hour.
Hey, whatever works.
Definitely.
So with that, like I said, we're going to get into the news. We've got a lot of things to talk about on the dock today, like Sasha Banks and why she wasn't in the Rumble. Some more notes, even more than we talked about last night about Edge's return, possible top matches for WrestleMania, and so much more. So let's jump right into it and talk about what the heck is going on with Sasha Banks.
Yeah, she wasn't in the Rumble.
Yeah, so last night, you may have noticed 30 women in the Rumble, but no Sasha Banks. And one would think, well, Sasha being in the Rumble, wouldn't that be a lock? Obviously, but it wasn't. And there's some things to look at with this because Sasha apparently is injured. So it was first reported by Fightful.com that she was not going to be in the match due to injury. PW Insider then stated that Banks was listed as of Saturday night for the Royal Rumble, and then she was pulled. I don't know if she was pulled on Saturday night or if she was pulled early Sunday, and the spot that Kelly came out at was originally supposed to be Sasha's spot. Now, the exact injury is unknown. The word going around is it could be an ankle injury, and we haven't actually seen Sasha Banks do anything physical since the January 3rd SmackDown when they did the Triple Threat Tag Team match. I believe she won that match, but she hasn't done anything physical since that match took place. And so I had heard from a source 2 weeks ago, hey, Sasha may be hurt, but we don't know anything past that. And now the word's coming out that she is hurt, and it's still unclear what the actual injury is. Many do think it's an ankle injury.
But I think that shows that WWE was very, very hopeful to get her cleared by Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
If they were literally, penciling her in for that spot, I think they were hoping, and I think that's also a sign, using common sense, that it's not a major, major injury, because if they were penciling her in with confidence on Sunday to be able to be at the Royal Rumble, like obviously it's not, maybe it's just like an ankle sprain, perhaps. That she couldn't get cleared on. At least I'm hoping. But I mean, yeah, it kind of did suck that she wasn't in there. I had been noticing that she hasn't been doing anything physical since the beginning of this year. So it was kind of weird, conspicuous by her absence, if you will.
Yeah, because if you remember, like they did that women's triple threat, and then they set up the Sasha Banks Lacey Evans match, and Sasha, quote unquote, wasn't there because she was filming her or recording her album. Then the next week, they're supposed to do the match, and there's a brawl with Sasha, Bayley, and Lacey, and you obviously can see that Lacey and Bayley are brawling, but Sasha's just sitting on the floor, not doing anything.
Right.
So that was right around the time when I was told, hey, she's hurt. Obviously, you can tell on TV when they didn't let her do jack diddly. And so, again, we don't know how long she's going to be out, how serious the injury is, and we just hope that she's back soon enough. I know there have been talks of maybe her and Bayley at WrestleMania, but again, we don't know how long she's going to be out. And as far as Mania plans go, there's so much that has been rumored, and they don't even have plans other than like the top 3 matches.
Right. I think this Mania, even after the Rumble, is really a big question mark. I think we see that this WrestleMania can go a lot of different ways. Like you said, I've heard the rumors of Sasha Banks and Bayley, but and hopefully that can happen. I would like to see that match. I think it would be a long culmination because, they had a whole thing on Raw that really culminated in nothing. And then they almost like restarted their angle on SmackDown. So hopefully this leads to something we finally get like a culmination to this feud / friendship.
I mean, I hope so. So moving forward, probably the biggest thing to come out of last night's show was the return of Edge. Edge made his return. We learned that he signed a 3-year deal with the WWE. And we told you last night that he flew in on Sunday morning. So that tweet he sent out, Instagram post he sent out on Saturday where he was like, hey, I'm with my daughter having a pizza party while mom's working. He wasn't trying to fool anybody. He was telling the 100% truth. And we do have some more notes on Edge's return here. Like I said, Edge showed up first thing Sunday morning. Soon as he got off the airplane, PW Insider states that cameras were filming Edge for an upcoming WWE Network documentary. WWE also, soon as the Rumble ended last night, released a brand new Edge t-shirt. As far as Edge going forward and what the plans are, I was told that there's most likely going to be some sort of Edge AJ Styles thing, but with AJ now possibly being hurt, that's going to go on the back burner. And one of the possible plans for Mania would be Edge versus Randy Orton, which they basically set up last night when Orton kind of teased RKOing Edge. And then Edge goes, you ain't going to mess with me, and just tossed him right out. So I think Edge versus Orton can be really fun.
See, I think there's so many like better feuds though, especially for Edge returning in his first Mania back. Like I get that Orton in a real life sense, Orton is a very safe one because he's a good storyline. They have history, and quite frankly, he's a safe worker. So Edge, being injured, there's probably zero chance with Randy Orton. But to me, like, why not feud him with a Seth Rollins, like someone we want to see him really feud with, or AJ Styles if he's not hurt for that matter. That's just 2 off the top of my head that I think would be better.
Yeah, I mean, the AJ thing is one of the plans, but AJ's a question mark right now because we don't know what's going on with his shoulder. He did injure his shoulder taking that spear last night, and you can see that as soon as that happened, I think it was his right arm, he did not want to move it at all. Like, it just didn't work.
Yeah, it was limp at that moment, and you can almost tell. A lot of people were commenting that it looked like him being eliminated from the Rumble was premature, and I kind of agree with that because it looked like he was supposed to last a little bit longer there, and no, he went out right away. So I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because if you see it, he takes the spear, lands awkwardly on his shoulder, and scoots himself to the corner where every referee runs over to him and 2 doctors. They talk to him for about a minute or so. He gets himself up. I think Corbin, because no one knew he was hurt. Corbin walks over, punches him. You can see AJ mouth, I'm hurt. So Corbin only hits him like once or twice. He then goes over to Edge, and Edge immediately just throws him out.
Right, exactly. And especially if a rumored match is Edge versus AJ Styles, obviously they were going to milk that a little bit more in the Rumble. Right. I think, and in fact, I was kind of wondering, because at the time I didn't know AJ was injured. I was kind of wondering why Edge was quite literally just laying down for a lot of the match. And I was wondering if that had to do with the fact that he hasn't wrestled a match in 9 years. But now it makes more sense that quite literally he lost his storyline in the Rumble for a little bit there with AJ Styles. So he had nothing to do. He almost had to go on the back burner for a little bit. And that makes complete sense because I was almost worried, like, what's Edge doing? Is he winded already? But that made sense.
Because the thing is, he also eliminated both other members of the OC. So it really
Right.
was like, okay, he's doing something with AJ. He eliminates the OC. They're mad that his first match back, he got all them out of the Rumble, and then we go from there. But we'll see how it goes. AJ's, I think, going to be evaluated today at Raw. They're going to be in San Antonio, and hopefully we hear something positive.
Yeah, and
Also,
you don't want to derail Edge on his return. So that I hope the timing doesn't work out badly in that sense. Like if that was his big storyline coming back, and now all of a sudden you have to start over with a returning superstar after 9 years, that can be very bad.
And also, you can tell, the last thing to talk about AJ here, when he throws AJ over the top rope, the cameras pan up to Edge, and he's got a look of concern on his face. Like, I don't want to speak for him, but it was kind of like a, uh-oh, was that my fault kind of look.
Right, exactly. And it wasn't his fault. I mean, you take a flat back bump off a spear, AJ kind of hit his shoulder as opposed to doing a flat back. I mean, it happens. I'm not even blaming AJ for it. But I don't think I've seen it already on Twitter and social media. Sometimes you can see the negativity. I'm like, I don't think you should blame Edge for that. He literally is just running at a guy and grabbing him, putting him down. It's not like he's controlling AJ in that spot.
I know when Edge first ran in, the cameras missed his spear on Ziggler. Have you seen the clip of that spear? He was hitting guys pretty hard, especially Ziggler. But
Ziggler took it like a champ, though.
That's what I say. Ziggler's probably taken that spear from Edge in the past. Edge knows how Ziggler's going to sell it, so that was one where it's like familiarity. Also, speaking about Edge, go for it.
I was going to say, I have a feeling that they probably didn't tell some of the guys. Like, obviously, people in Gorilla knew that Edge was coming in, but I have a feeling that the first half of guys might not have known. Because I saw Dolph Ziggler mouth the exact words, "I'm going first." he said, "I'm going first."
I didn't notice that.
When Edge was coming down the aisle. So it was almost like he said, look, this is his first spear back as an active competitor, which, by the way, I said his first spear in 9 years, and people were like, what about the one he did on Elias? I'm like, guys, that was like just a nice little like nostalgia moment. I'm talking about the first, this is the first spear in 9 years since his retirement as an active competitor. He ran into that ring. Dolph Ziggler said, I'm going to go first. And Kevin Dunn says, cut to the crowd instead. Well, oh my God, it was so irritating.
We don't know if it's Kevin Dunn. I mean, he's the one that's usually in charge of stuff like that. But yeah,
I'm tongue in cheek, mind you. I don't take me seriously on that one. I'm just saying, like it was such a bad. That ironically enough, the other person in the Rumble who had such a bad camera angle was during AJ Styles' debut. When they cut to Roman as opposed to cutting to the Titantron of AJ Styles.
No. I see a lot of people were trying to compare that. That was not a mess up. I actually think that it was the right thing to keep the camera on Roman as long as they did, because you want the people at home to hear that music and go, what the hell? And then not see anything till AJ's actually walking out. Because if you would have just panned over to the Titantron and saw it said phenomenal, you would have knew that was AJ. So I liked that they stayed on Roman as long as they did then to build up that anticipation, like, what's going on? Roman's got this weird look on his face. Who is it? We don't know what this music is. And then once he walks out, we see him. So actually, in my opinion, I liked the way they did that.
See, I'm a little biased on that because I was in the Orlando crowd. I actually was there for AJ Styles' debut. So I'm a little biased on that one because if you go to my Twitter, twitter.com/KennyPodcast, you can actually see I posted the footage on the anniversary of AJ Styles' debut. When the phenomenal hits, the whole crowd just erupts, and it's funny. Even on TV, you don't hear how loud it actually got because it almost sounds like a vacuum on TV because it got so loud that the audio levels had to kind of be almost like be turned down a little bit. So again, I'm coming from a place of bias, so maybe I shouldn't be commenting on that.
Also, according to Bill Pritchard of WrestleZone, he does report that Edge actually had talks with All Elite Wrestling, but it's unclear how serious the talks were. Edge was reportedly cleared by an independent doctor, his own doctor, and apparently AEW found out they were interested, and I don't know who contacted who, whether it was Edge contacted AEW or AEW contacted Edge, but apparently Vince McMahon reportedly told Edge, hey, if you're going to return, you might as well do it in WWE. Their doctors then went through the procedure of getting Edge cleared. Edge apparently, or obviously, got cleared, and hey, now we move on forward. It looks like for the most part, Edge will probably be placed on the Raw brand.
I'm expecting Raw because there's so much more feuds that he can have on Raw.
Right.
As opposed to SmackDown. And I feel like also, SmackDown is a really good show by itself right now. I feel like Raw needs him more, which is weird to say because usually Raw is the flagship in that sense. But I do feel like Raw would benefit from Edge more than SmackDown would.
Very true. I think, like you said, SmackDown's been the better show recently. I don't want to say, oh, that's just because they're on Fox. It's maybe a fact of Bruce Pritchard's now the lead writer or lead producer over there on SmackDown. He's been doing some cool things, some good things over there, and we'll see how it all goes. But like I said, I think Edge is going to Raw basically for the sole fact that the two first storylines they teased were with Raw superstars.
Absolutely. Yep.
So coming out of the Rumble, as far as WrestleMania is concerned, we know of a couple of things that are possible as far as the men's matches. So obviously, Drew McIntyre, it's basically a lock that he's going to challenge Brock Lesnar. Not only did he win the Royal Rumble, but he was the one that eliminated Brock Lesnar as well. As far as what's going to happen with the SmackDown side of things, one would assume maybe they do an Elimination Chamber in March. Winner goes on to Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. And as of right now, according to Dave Meltzer, the plan is for Roman Reigns to challenge Bray Wyatt. Now,
I don't know if I accept that one.
Now, here's a good thing, though, about the Roman Reigns thing. Meltzer also stated that originally Shayna Baszler and Roman Reigns were slated to win the Royal Rumble. The plan was always for Drew to eliminate Brock to set up that match. So you set up your Raw match in the Rumble. Roman wins, you also set up your SmackDown match in the Rumble. But I think it was a good idea for them to change that and have McIntyre win as well, because then we would have got another situation of fans hating on Roman for 3 months.
Right. And Roman doesn't deserve that at this point. I mean, Roman has been very good since he's come back from his leukemia.
Right.
And so to put him in a situation where, he would win the Royal Rumble and then go right back to being booed, I think WWE calling that audible and having Drew win it, it meant so much more because you still have time to set up Roman and Bray Wyatt, just as you said, at Elimination Chamber or something like that. The good thing about because I was chatting with my friends on the live stream about, Roman Reigns challenging Bray Wyatt possibly. And I said, the only good that I can see to come out of that is that Bray Wyatt has literally changed everybody that he has come in contact with. Not to say Roman's getting a little bit stale, but perhaps this is just the added boost that Roman would need to get to that next level to where the fans really, really care about him. And not, he's not just Roman Reigns Superman in the eyes of the fans. Not that I think he's that, but I'm just talking about the general perception.
Now, here's a question I'm going to pose to you. Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt has had feuds with Finn Balor and Seth Rollins and now Daniel Bryan. The Daniel Bryan matches have really been the only good Fiend matches. Do you think Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns can work? And the other question is, do you think they still go with the whole fact of, because in all these other feuds, it's Bray takes punishment, no sells it, and then just ends up winning. Do you think that they do that same thing with Roman, or maybe Roman wins the title at Mania?
I would actually think it would make more sense for Roman to win the title at Mania. And, that a lot of people aren't going to like that. But I feel like with Bray Wyatt, with Roman Reigns, what he should do is really humanize Roman Reigns, because in this era, that's what's really going to get Roman over, is because as a guy, as a man, Roman Reigns is an amazing human being. So for you to kind of pull back the veil a little bit and kind of make him be vulnerable, I think would do a lot for his character. I mean, that's exactly why people have stopped booing him with the real life leukemia diagnosis last year. So if you pull it back a little bit more and Bray Wyatt's going after his daughter, or Bray Wyatt's, insinuating that he's going to go, take away the Samoan dynasty, things like that. Right. You have like a formula that can really work going into Mania. But if you do those things and Roman loses, then it's like, how many losses is this guy going to take in these sort of feuds? He just lost to Brock Lesnar like every time, which was like most of the time, I should say, which was horrible for his character. In hindsight, it might have been the best thing to happen to him because, now we're getting like an organic Roman Reigns push. But I'm just saying, like, I think Roman should win, especially since it's in Florida. He is from Pensacola. You know what I mean? Like, so he's gonna have family and friends there. That's just my opinion.
So as far as the women's side of things go, like I stated, the plan was changed from Shayna Baszler winning the Royal Rumble to Charlotte Flair. So that obviously tells you that at one point there was plans for Shayna being in that big Mania main event. Whether that was against Becky Lynch or Bayley, the Becky Lynch thing would make more sense because they can do the whole, Shayna Baszler comes in, she wins the Rumble. Well, now she's not winning the Rumble, but she can still come in and say, hey, you took the title from one of my best friends. Now I want to avenge that loss for her. Maybe we don't see Ronda come back. Maybe we see Ronda come back and do something slightly in favor of Shayna. But as of right now, we don't know where Charlotte's going. Charlotte did state in a social media video last night that she'll give her a response and her answer as far as her challenge tonight on Raw. So they know what it's going to be, but they're keeping everything hush-hush. Who would you rather see Charlotte face, Bayley or Becky Lynch? Keep in mind, a lot of people keep saying, I don't want to see either because they've done those matches so many times already.
Right. And I was actually discussing this last night. Same thing. I was saying, which way do they go? Because both have been done. The only thing I think I finally came to the conclusion that there's only one scenario that I'll accept. Okay. But it's one of those that we're going to be unhappy with until we get there. The only scenario I'll accept is her facing Becky Lynch for the simple reason that I have faith that Ronda Rousey will return in that time and say, if you two are going to face each other, I want my rematch as well. And then we have a rematch of last year's WrestleMania at this year's WrestleMania. You put that in the mid card of the show, and I think it'll steal the show. Obviously they don't have the pressure of being the main, the last match like last year.
Right.
Because even though that was an honor, don't get me wrong, that obviously was an honor. It was the precedent that women's match was the main event. So I don't want anyone to think I'm taking away from that. But I was at that WrestleMania. They went on after midnight. I don't care who you are. I have the stamina of a champ when it comes to professional wrestling. And I was like, okay, like this sucks that they're on so late because it's not going to mean as much. So that's why I keep saying give them the mid card of this match, like the mid card main event, if you will, like the Kofi Daniel Bryan spot from last year. And I feel like they'll steal the show.
I just don't know how many people, including myself, would want to see basically the same match done 2 years in a row. Now, granted, I know we've done it before, Rock and John Cena, but it's just like doing this match again, and I see where you're coming from, especially with Ronda never got her rematch. She was beat for the title, never got a chance to try and win it back. So I get all that where you're coming from. But my whole thing is just like, why do it again? And I get doing Charlotte versus Becky is almost like doing it again anyways. So I think they should move on, and maybe, I don't think it'll happen, but have somebody maybe, Charlotte says I want to challenge the Raw champion, but by the time we get to Mania, maybe the Raw champion's somebody different. Doubt that'll happen, but just a thought.
The only problem I have with that, is quite simply that it'll put I'm trying to book from a stance where Charlotte, I know she's polarizing. So it's like, what's the best scenario for her? If you give somebody the title off of Becky Lynch, you've already messed up Mania for one reason. Becky Lynch is so over that she should go to Mania as champion. If you give it to someone, literally, Charlotte's just going to get booed out of that stadium. It doesn't matter who it is. It's like you're setting that person up for failure to have to face Charlotte at Mania, in my opinion. So even though I agree with you as a person, like I want someone different, I'm trying to think of like what's gonna happen when that goes on at Mania. Like people are gonna go, like the air is gonna deflate out of their tires,
Exactly.
Charlotte versus Asuka or something again. Then it becomes an again match, or Charlotte versus Alexa Bliss. I feel like, that could be a good match, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's a possibility.
But, I was rooting for, and I had said that I thought Shayna Baszler should have won that Rumble.
Yes.
My two guesses for that Rumble were Ronda Rousey if she was coming back. And I said, if Ronda doesn't come back, you can fill in Shayna Baszler in that spot, and it's just as credible.
Yeah.
And then so when Shayna came in at 30, I thought it was a lock. I thought it was an absolute lock for her to win that Rumble. I was very surprised when she didn't.
And I mean, you can tell there's some sort of a plan for Shayna Baszler going forward on the main roster. Because yes, they made Bianca Belair look good with eliminating 8 women, but it took Bianca 33 minutes to do that, where Shayna eliminated 8 women in like less than 5.
Right.
So
Right.
there's some sort of a plan. They like Shayna Baszler, but at the same time, they probably know how long do we got with her, because she's up there in the upper 30s. She's like 38, 39 years old. And
Right. I didn't realize she was 38 or so
yeah,
until maybe a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, wow. First of all, she's in great shape for being 38, and two, I was the same thing. I was like, they need to get her onto a Raw or SmackDown before it's too late. In that sense, you don't want to waste her. I shouldn't say that because that diminishes NXT, but I feel like you should get her on a bigger platform. She's got a name that if you Google it, you can see legitimate MMA fights.
yeah.
She's got a record. You know what I mean? She's one of the four horsewomen. So to me, like, utilize that while she's still in her prime.
Because I know there's been, talks all the time. We're bringing Shayna up after Mania. We're bringing Shayna up after SummerSlam. And then Triple H just goes, let's wait just one more, what's where I'm looking for. One more little run. We'll give her one more little run with the title.
Right.
Then let's wait again.
Right.
Let's wait again. It's like, I got to the point where I'm like, I'm just not going to predict Shayna Baszler coming to the main roster until I see it.
You know what, though? He was kind of right on that, to be honest with you, because now if you look, now she can leave the NXT women's division and it's just fine because there's so many contenders for the title that it's ridiculous. It might be the most stacked division in on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and even AEW, New Japan. Like, I'm talking about, like, that is a stacked roster in professional wrestling. So now Shayna Baszler can rightfully leave the NXT women's division, go to Raw or SmackDown, and make a name for herself there. So I feel like there's no gap there, which is good. I feel like if she had left earlier, there would have been a little bit of a gap, kind of like when Asuka left, and it was just kind of like they almost had to reboot the NXT women's division.
You have a point. I didn't think of it in that sense of how they waited till they were ready, not just, oh, let's move her now. I didn't think of it like that.
Right. And that's probably why Triple H probably was, stiff arming Vince and saying, like, look, I get that you want her on your show, but if we're going to go live on USA, if we're going to go this, and this is my best division, you can't leave it as a pit. You have to leave it good. So, I mean, I agree with Triple H by, sometimes you do things too soon just for the sake of it, and it's bad. But sometimes if you just wait for the right moment, it's good. If Shayna Baszler had come up earlier, Ronda Rousey was on the main roster, she'd have been overshadowed because they're pretty much the same character. Even though they're friends, I feel like it would have hurt Shayna Baszler unless she was feuding with Ronda Rousey.
I was just going to ask you that same thing. Is it good that they're waiting now till after Ronda's gone? Because, like you said, she would have been overshadowed. She would have most likely just ended up being, I don't like using this term, but I use it a lot, Ronda Rousey's lackey, for a better term.
Exactly. You don't want that. You don't want Ronda Rousey is Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
People who are not wrestling fans are going to know her. They might not necessarily know Shayna Baszler. However, now that Ronda has left, at least for the time being, Shayna Baszler can fill that void because now people can go, hey, that's Ronda Rousey. People who don't know wrestling, I should say, they can go, hey, that's Ronda Rousey's friend. Okay, let's see what she's about, and then give her a chance to shine without Ronda Rousey being there. It doesn't matter. If you have a famous friend like Ronda Rousey, there's only so much you can do. So I feel like this is a perfect storm. Things happen for a reason. Shayna Baszler coming up to the main roster now. Now you have, that ass kicker. You have that person that's a legitimate MMA fighter to fill the void of Ronda Rousey and really give someone a run for their money. I'd be okay with Shayna Baszler winning the title literally next month from Becky and going to face Charlotte at Mania. That's one that I can think about.
That would be a good one because it would have been like, Shayna wins the title. She then got the belt, and then she can be like, kind of like the Becky thing where it's like, I want to face Asuka. Well, Shayna can go, I want to face Charlotte and redeem myself from getting thrown out of the Rumble by her.
Right. Exactly. And then now you have an intriguing storyline. But the weird thing about that is I feel like obviously Shayna's supposed to be the heel and Charlotte's supposed to be the face, but I don't think anybody would be cheering Charlotte or booing Shayna. So
I mean, they booed the hell out of Charlotte last night after she won.
Absolutely. I did too. I was disappointed in that, and I couldn't believe it because the last person I thought would win was Charlotte. And my friend Drew, who was sitting next to me the whole night, was like, Charlotte's gonna win. I'm like, they wouldn't do that. And then sure enough, it happens, and I was thoroughly disappointed.
Yeah, I had heard Friday that there was a possible change. I reported that Drew and Charlotte went in the Rumble. Then on Sunday morning, like I want to say an hour or two before the Rumble started, like the main card and everything, the betting odds on every betting on site completely shifted. everyone started betting on Charlotte, so people heard stuff, and obviously we went the route we did. So moving forward as we wrap this up, we got one more little thing here. It's about WrestleMania, but Royal Rumble, and notes and stuff, little things that happened in the Rumble and what this could be leading to. As far as Beth Phoenix does go, we did see Beth Phoenix bleeding pretty bad from the back of her head last night. Apparently the spot was where she was backed into the corner, and I guess she got like lifted up and she bent backwards, and the back of her head clipped the edge of the turnbuckle post, and that's what busted her open. She ended up going an extra 20 minutes or so with her head bleeding, and she just no-sold it like everything was perfectly fine.
Yeah, I didn't even realize she was busted open at first, because my friend looked at me and he goes, "Is Beth Phoenix busted open?" And I go, "No, that's like an ombre hairstyle."
Right.
I thought it was just literally dyed red a little bit. But then as a couple minutes later, all of a sudden, it's growing per se. And I'm like, it's looking like Ric Flair in the 80s. And I was just like, okay, she's definitely busted open, and it was definitely hard way, because no one cuts themselves on the back of their head like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and.
Go for it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, I feel like, again, going back to my catchphrase apparently for this episode, which is things happen for a reason. Some things happen organically, and you can't write them better. Beth Phoenix was the Iron Woman of that Royal Rumble, and it was gonna happen no matter what. The fact that she was busted open like that just made her seem like so much more of a warrior, and it really just enhanced her performance. To me, I would compare it to when Becky Lynch got punched in the face by Nia Jax. When she got punched in the face by Nia Jax, yeah, it was going to be a good moment already with her getting the best of the Raw roster, but that visual of her bleeding and stuff just made it so much better, and it solidified her. To me, I don't know if Beth Phoenix is going to have another run on the roster like Edge's, but that really solidified it for me that she can do more that in this business still. Even though she's been retired for about 8 years, if she wanted to have another run, she could easily do it.
Yeah, and the thing with how strong she was made to look in that Rumble does lead one to think that maybe she's going to do more than just commentary on NXT. And I liked how, I think it was Tom Phillips may have noted, when they first started saying, hey, she's bleeding from the back of her head, they were like, yeah, she's tough. She's also one of our broadcast colleagues. So it's like, hey, not only is she just someone that talks on NXT, but look how tough she is for going through this, not backing down, not slowing down. Like, she didn't slow down or anything, I didn't think.
Not at all. Not at all. Didn't miss a beat. And the good thing, I like that they said that too, because Beth Phoenix, as good as she always was in her active career, she was never known as a promo person. She was never known as someone who was good on the mic. But now people understand that. I mean, she's literally talking. I mean, I do commentary for Knockout Wrestling here in Florida, and I have to talk for 3 hours. I have a whole new respect for the commentators that I never had before. Beth Phoenix, to come in as a former wrestler and to have acclimated so well to the announce table and bring that big fight feel of like, look, here's the situation, I've been in it, and let me explain it to you at home. She does so well at that you gained a whole new respect. Then she has a performance like that in the Rumble. It's like I know she's in the Hall of Fame already, but now, to me, she's achieved that upper echelon, like, legend status because she can do it all.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, I got a little rant.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I liked it. So going forward, as far as other things that happened in the Rumble, we saw MVP came out in the 12th spot. He was eliminated pretty quickly by Lesnar. According to Dave Meltzer, MVP is in for a couple of nights, but it's nothing long-term. So I don't know exactly what that means. Whether maybe they got him for their Rumble in Saudi Arabia and that's it, we'll have to see. Kind of vague there.
Well, so MVP, I don't know if anybody's been following his stuff, but he's done some Dark Side of the Ring and some other, The Wrestlers, I think is the name of the show. He's done some stuff like that where he talks about his career winding down, the aches and pains of the business, and wanting to go out on his shield. So I think, to me, knowing all of that, I was like, okay, I'm really happy that if this may be his last year of wrestling, perhaps, that they gave him a Rumble moment. So I feel like that was it. It was just like a culmination of like, hey, you came back to WWE at least, and here you are. Now, the business the way it is, obviously things can always happen where if they see something in him, they can offer him a GM spot, or they can offer him a legend spot, in a part-time role or whatever they want to do with him.
Right.
But if it's just the Rumble, I'm glad he had that to kind of put, the close on his career in WWE like that.
For sure. As far as who was backstage and did not appear on television, Undertaker, Kane, Big Show, Xavier Woods, NXT champion Rhea Ripley, Ruby Riott, Ember Moon, and Nia Jax. Those are all reported from PW Insider. And they also state that Paige was not backstage. If you follow Paige on social media, you would have saw her posting on her Instagram story that she was still at home getting her new house ready. So all the teases that Paige was doing on WWE Backstage, it was just her and Punk having fun trolling everybody.
What's cool about Paige, though, she actually did post something about Edge on social media, and she said it gives people hope. And obviously, she's talking about herself. And everyone's like, yeah, you're going to come back now. And it's like, I don't think Paige is going to come back anytime soon. Remember, she has the same diagnosis Edge had, which is spinal stenosis. Edge has been gone for 9 years. You know what I mean? In that time, and I said this to somebody had privately messaged me and said, I'm scared every time he bumps. And I say, I don't think you should be, because Edge is in better shape than he ever was in his active career. And I don't just mean physically. You can, or I should say, not just muscles. You can see that, his arms look a lot bigger. They don't look like, it looked like he had lost muscle mass and atrophied a little bit towards the end of his career. Right. Now he looks healthy. Like, I'm talking about, he's moving better than I've ever seen him in his career. So 9 years off, getting his health back together. Obviously he's married to Beth Phoenix now, and she's a workhorse in the gym. Like, just all these little things of, like, I don't think we should be scared of Edge, because WWE wouldn't let him go out there if they felt like he was gonna, was one bump away from ending his career again.
And I mean, we learned that with the Daniel Bryan stuff. They made him go through hoops to get cleared. So we know that they're gonna make you wait till they think, okay, you're good now.
Right. It's not like, okay, you're going to AEW, you're cleared. Like, literally, they would put him through every strength test in the book. And I can almost promise you he's on the same thing as Daniel Bryan, which is after every match, he's going to get checked out by the doctors, make sure everything's good. Because once you're on that list, once you've had to retire, like an Edge or a Daniel Bryan, I'm pretty sure WWE is going to make sure you're not a liability.
And here's the one thing I was wondering since last night. Where the heck was Edge training? That nobody leaked it out, said, oh, hey, we saw Edge at this gym in a wrestling ring, or Edge was spotted at the Performance Center. Like, unless he's got some ring in his backyard we don't know about, I'm kind of wondering, where the hell was he training for this? Because he's not like, especially being gone for 9 years, it's not like he can just show up and go, oh, yeah, I haven't been in a ring at all in 9 years. Let's just go at it.
Well, he has a big property in North Carolina. He and Beth Phoenix. I wouldn't be surprised, because they're, he talks about it on his podcast. If you kind of follow Edge, I feel like you knew this was coming, because there's just little things that have kind of come along. The fact that his podcast all of a sudden abruptly ended, and then the little haha of the episode, the last episode being titled "Edge is retiring again." He was on Celtic Warrior workouts with Sheamus, and you could see that he was absolutely ripped. And then, of course, when the reports came out that he was cleared to do some stuff, and then he speared Elias, I'm like, if you're cleared, you're cleared. It doesn't mean that you're cleared just to do a spot.
Exactly.
So again, but back to your point, which is, where did he train? I wouldn't be surprised if he built a ring inside of their home, and then he and Beth Phoenix were working some stuff together to prepare for the Rumble. But that's just my opinion.
I know, because you mentioned his podcast and stuff, I know he had said, I think it was like a couple episodes in like 2018, where him and Christian were talking about retirement and stuff, and he goes, I know I didn't want to retire when I did, but maybe it was for the best, because now I'm not like one of those guys that's going out there when I'm too old, can't keep up, and looking bad. He said that a couple times, and for him to, I guess, have a change of mind, it's awesome.
I think you got to read in, especially with wrestlers and kayfabe 2.0, as I like to call it, which is, the kayfabe behind the realism on Twitter and stuff. I almost feel like you need to read behind what he said sometimes, or like wrestlers say in general, because he said, before I got too old and stuff and all of that. I think what he was saying was, especially now that he's cleared, it's good that I had that time off and I could get my body back into shape, because if Edge had kept going the way he was going, he would be one of those guys by now, but he looks like he gained a step, and he's in his 40s now. And he looks like he gained a step coming back last night. So he does not look like one of those guys that, that was
Exactly.
too old and shouldn't be out there. So I think it's just the little tweak of like, I'm not saying I'll never come back. It's just, I'm glad that I never became one of those guys.
So, as far as Miz and Morrison do go, according to PW Insider, they will be bringing back the dirt sheet. It is said that they may have already filmed
Nice.
some stuff, but it's unsure if the stuff's going to be aired on just SmackDown, if the stuff's going to be just for social media, or if they're getting like their own show on the WWE Network. But I think that should be really cool and really fun. And
Right. You should give them a show or a podcast on
right,
WWE's podcast network, because those are like, you're like your New Day of the late 2000s. You
yes,
know what I mean? Where they can just talk and just do just nonsense and it's still entertaining. The others you probably should give that to are the Iconics, but that's a little sidebar. That's a different story for a different day.
I mean we haven't seen them. Speaking of the Iconics, I didn't even think about it. We haven't seen them in forever. It feels like.
I know. Well, Peyton Royce got married to Sean Spears and stuff, so I was like, okay, cool. They gave them time off to, kind of,
Well, I think
have their wedding and stuff. But then
they were still
what
tag team
happened?
champions when that happened.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Maybe like my thought process was maybe they gave them some time off so that they can go on their honeymoon and, get acclimated to married life. I was like, okay, that's cool that they would do that. But now I'm just like, okay, what's happened? Maybe there's an injury that we don't know about, or they're just, trying to repackage them. Who knows?
The final thing about coming out of the Royal Rumble, according to Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, he did report last night that prior to the Rumble, there was a verbal altercation backstage in passing between Matt Riddle and Brock Lesnar. Now, details on this situation are scarce, as one source did note that basically it was just they were both walking backstage, and in passing, Brock Lesnar, I guess you can say, wanted to make the situation between Riddle and himself known to Riddle. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe because we know Matt Riddle, he's called out Brock on social media and was like, hey, I want to retire you at WrestleMania. So maybe that got back to Brock. Brock finally saw Matt Riddle for the first time and said, hey, stay in your lane or something. One source also indicated to Pro Wrestling Sheet that this was a very serious situation. This was not something done as an angle or filmed for like extra content for something down the road. But for hearing that it was only a verbal altercation and that nothing really happened, I feel like there's really not too much to look into this other than, hey, Brock just told them, stay in your lane, basically, is what it seems like to me.
I think what happened here was that Matt Riddle had been saying stuff about how he doesn't know if Brock Lesnar is aware of the stuff he's saying. So they had been at different events where Matt Riddle was backstage where Brock Lesnar was, and Brock Lesnar hasn't said anything. So he was just like, okay, I guess Brock's not listening. So I think this was basically Brock Lesnar's way of saying like, hey, MFer, I hear you. And stop talking about me before, I do something about it,
Right.
for lack of a better term. And so I think he was just letting Riddle know. Now, Matt Riddle is such a gem in the sense of he's like kayfabing the boys, which is kind of crazy. Like he's the guy that doesn't care if he gets heat, even with the roster.
Exactly.
He just wants to say stuff like that and let it be known to further his brand, which I mean, I think that's what got him in trouble at UFC, but let's see how that works out. This is the wrestling world after all. But yeah, like you said, I think it's just Brock saying, stay in your lane. I'm aware of what you're saying and shut up about it.
So as we go forward, we've got Raw tonight. Monday Night Raw will be coming to us from San Antonio, Texas. And the only thing so far announced for tonight's Monday Night Raw is a match between Liv Morgan and Lana, where Bobby Lashley and Rusev are both going to be banned from ringside. I guess they did an okay job building towards this with the Rumble. Lana got eliminated by Liv, so then Lana came back and pulled Liv off the apron to eliminate her. Also, in case anybody asks, we have not heard if Brock Lesnar will be on tonight's show or not. I would hope that he is, just to further the stuff with McIntyre. But as of this morning, there was no word if Brock was going to be in San Antonio or not. But I mean,
see, I think that's good though. They didn't advertise him, because if McIntyre comes out and he starts talking about Brock and Brock shows up, it's going to be a lot better than if it's advertised that Brock is there. So this is one of those scenarios that where I'm okay with it. And little tidbit, Brock has actually been on like every Raw this year so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually surprising. And I think I posted a tweet out there, an interesting factoid, which was his appearance in the 2020 Royal Rumble had almost as much cumulative time as his entire 2019 run. So far, Brock Lesnar in 2020 is actually paid off in spades. It looks to me like he's motivated, and I'm all for it. Because a motivated Brock Lesnar is one of the best in the business. I know a lot of people won't agree, but Brock Lesnar is something special, especially when he jumped off of Big E's back last night. It was amazing.
That was great.
Yeah.
One other note for Monday Night Raw. Vic Joseph is no longer on the Raw commentary team. He is being replaced by Tom Phillips as the lead commentary, which I think... Go for it.
No, I was going to say, I actually was going to mention that earlier, but I didn't want to cut you off about something. But Tom Phillips, when you were mentioning Tom Phillips, I was like, you know what? He is a lot better commentator than anyone will give him credit for.
Yes.
Because he and Jerry the King Lawler had such good chemistry. And it wasn't due to Jerry the King Lawler. It was the fact that, again, and I'm speaking as someone who does play-by-play for a wrestling company. I do this subtly, so I understand how good Tom Phillips is. It's not, the color commentator is not supposed to be the person that interjects randomly. It's supposed to be where the play-by-play basically says blah, blah, blah. But hey, King, you were an in-ring competitor. What is your experience in the Royal Rumble? You almost have to set the person up so that they can knock it out of the park. And Tom Phillips was doing that so much last night that I was like, man, I really want him to team up again with Jerry the King Lawler. I had no idea. This is actually the first time I'm hearing about it. That's why I sound so excited that I didn't know that Tom Phillips was replacing Vic Joseph. On Raw. So that, I think, is a winning team, and I'm all for that.
And it sounds like they're going to stay a two-man booth. They're not going to add a third person. I know there was talks, I want to say right after the Dio Madden thing, of maybe putting a female on there, like a Mickie James, until she's cleared to get back in the ring. But from everything we've heard, and I think the PW Insider also reported, that it's going to stay a two-man booth, and it's now going to be Tom Phillips and Jerry Lawler for the time being.
Awesome. Because Jerry the King Lawler has enough experience, and Tom Phillips is new enough to bring that youth and vibrance. I really thought it was a good team. Just add Booker T back in. That's the only thing missing from that one.
Well, as we heard on the Jericho Cruise, Booker just goes and does whatever he hell wants.
Right. But oh man, his commentary during the Rumble, it always makes me laugh.
Oh, I liked it. I liked it.
Booker T's a lot better of a color commentator than anyone will ever give him credit for.
So as we wrap things up, we got a couple non-WWE notes. AEW did announce that Cody's 10 lashings from MJF will be coming on the February 5th edition of Dynamite from Huntsville, Alabama. Also, I think the following week Cody will be taking on Wardlow in the first ever cage match for All Elite Wrestling in Atlanta, Georgia. Also, speaking of AEW, they sold tickets they were going to, I think it's Providence. No, not Providence. I can't remember exactly the city. I forgot to write it down. But it's in the New York area. It's the first time they're going up to the New York area. And they actually sold, it's the Prudential Center. And they sold over 10,000 tickets. It was not quite a sellout. But there's a good chance that it does sell out by the time they get there in, I want to say, March. According to Dave Meltzer, the difference between them selling 10,000 tickets to this show and them selling thousands and thousands of tickets to previous shows is that as of right now, it looks like most of the tickets were bought by actual fans and not scalpers. So that's a good thing for AEW to look at.
That's a very good thing. So that's also, just to note, the New York area. So that's actually in New Jersey, kind of like WrestleMania was. So it's Newark, New Jersey. Newark is what it's called, not New York. Newark, New Jersey. And yeah, so hence the New York area. But New Jersey is small enough. I'm a New Yorker, mind you, is why I'm saying all of this. New Jersey's small enough that anytime an event is in New Jersey, people always say New York, New Jersey. You see WWE do it all the time. I mean, the WWE 24 that aired last night was called WrestleMania New York. It didn't even mention New Jersey, and that's where it was.
So finally, the last thing, New Japan is doing a tour of the U.S. right now. It started last Friday, and unfortunately, Kota Ibushi had to be pulled. According to a report from Hochi News in Japan, they report that Ibushi is actually suffering from Mallory-Weiss syndrome. If you're unsure what that is, basically a condition in which the boundary between the esophagus and the stomach is damaged, and the mucous membrane is vertically torn and bleeding. Now, Kota Ibushi took to Twitter over the weekend and posted a photo of a thermometer showing that he has a 40.2 Celsius or 104.2 Fahrenheit degree temperature. So hopefully he can kick this. I don't know the recovery time for Mallory-Weiss syndrome. I didn't look it up. So hopefully he can get back to where he needs to be to wrestle again by the time that the next tour of Japan comes. I'm not sure when exactly that is. I would assume they've got some tour in February, as they usually do, one big tour every month. So hopefully Kota Ibushi gets better.
And I was supposed to go to the start of that tour, which was
Gotcha.
Friday in Tampa. So I'm almost glad I didn't go, because Kota Ibushi would have definitely been a big reason I wanted to go to that show. But hey, hopefully he gets better, man. That is 104.2 degrees Fahrenheit. That is nothing to play around with.
Yeah, when they first announced that Kota had to be pulled, they did state, if anybody is dissatisfied with that, we will give you a refund on your ticket if you want. So good on them for doing that. Yeah. Even though it was only one person, it's like, hey, we know a lot of people like Kota Ibushi, so if that was the only reason you're going, we'll give you a refund.
Right. That's awesome of them to do that. Yeah.
But with that, I think that's going to wrap everything up here for this edition of the Wrestling Wrap-Up. I want to thank Kenny for joining us here. Kenny, where can they follow you?
So you can follow me a lot of places, twitter.com/Kenny Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram.com/A Kenny for Your Thoughts Podcast. I post a lot of memes and quirky things. Don't be surprised if some posts are, legitimate, and then some posts are a little bit kayfabed, where I treat wrestling like it's real. Just laugh along with me. I don't think wrestling is real, I promise. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/A Kenny for Your Thoughts. Please help us out. We're literally maybe like 10 people away from like getting 1,000. And if you're a YouTuber, 1,000 is that big landmark. So help us get there. youtube.com/A Kenny for Your Thoughts. I do post new content every week. We have a live episode usually every Thursday. Depending, I'll always post to set a reminder and things on social media for you. Where you can follow us on Facebook. I don't know why you would. Facebook's, for your grandfather, but you can follow us on Facebook as well. But thank you for this, man. This has been awesome. I know I talked a little bit, but
I liked it.
But definitely a lot of fun on this episode. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you joining me here. Hope we can do more together going forward. And I want to thank everybody for joining us here, either in the live chat, watching later on YouTube, or listening on podcast services all around the world like iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and so much more. I will be back live again tonight following Monday Night Raw. So have a good day, guys, and I'll see you after Raw.